Okay, we are live. Welcome back, everyone, to my channel. Take a look at this chart. Now, there's been a question hanging in the air about how much unemployment benefits are impacting the motivation of people to get back into the workforce, right? Some of the preliminary data, even from economists, have been, uh, you know, um, um, well, it hasn't really given us a clear picture, you know. Um, and so now that the unemployment benefits having expired in many states, some data is starting to come in. And when you look at this chart, right, now we should be clear, this is a chart of, people's sentiment, them saying that this is the reason, right? So let's take a look at this chart real quick. Reasons for turning down job offers while unemployed. It's a survey of 463 U.S. adults from June 22nd to June 25th, right? And the thing that kind of jumps out at you is the number of reasons is actually quite evenly spread, around 13%. You know, um, what a coincidence. But anyway, so for the section that says I receive enough money from unemployment insurance without having to work is 13%, right? Now, that's quite substantial. It's right up there with childcare, which is, I mean, it's an obvious logical reason. There's also, um, reluctance depending on, the COVID safety protocols. However, one thing that we should note, and one thing that economists have learned over the years in analyzing data is that consumers are not very good and sometimes terrible at understanding their own motivations, their own reasons for doing what they do. In my earlier discussion about inflationary expectations, right, in terms of what the public thinks that inflation will be in the near future or even longer term, is that they're almost never right. Okay, which is not unexpected. It's not unreasonable because they don't have the data to analyze and kind of make reasonable projections. They might hear something in the news. They might, just have a general sense of prices going up because they're paying for things. But in this instance, and with regards to inflation, unless you examine the actual data, you don't really know if the consumer sentiment is actually accurate. And that's what we're going to break down today, right? Now, we know that they're saying, or about 13% are saying, the reason why I'm able to turn down a job offer and remain out of the workforce is because I've got enough money, right? And it's the money that's coming from the unemployment insurance benefits, right? So we need to verify that because that's what economists do. We check the data against the statements that are made by consumers, and sometimes they're right and sometimes they're wrong, right? So let's continue on with the analysis. By the way, I think this is going to be a shorter stream because um, I'm going to just cover two data points, but I think it gives us pretty good insight. So let's take a look at this chart, right? This is a chart from Bank of America, B of A Global Research, and it's looking at the total card spending for household that received unemployment benefits versus those that did not. And those are households within the states where federal unemployment benefits were withdrawn. Okay. So on this chart, the the darker line, the dark blue, are the households that received unemployment benefits, and the lighter blue are the spending, total card spending of households that did not. Now, there's two things to note about this. One is the fact that, both households, despite the distinctions about unemployment benefits, are actually tracking very close to each other, right? Now, if you're wondering about these dotted lines here, and we'll get more into that in um, the chart following this, but these dotted lines represent the times when the federal unemployment benefits were shut off. Okay, so these are the three cutoff dates, right? And if you examine the data on consumer spending, right? Of course, this is total card spending for households for B of A, but you notice that any deviation between the household that received unemployment benefits and the households that did not actually started before the unemployment benefits were expected to expire, and that kind of makes sense. Some people might think, well, things are going to get shut off, and so I might need to cut back on my spending. But the other thing to note is that the gap between these two are not very significant. It's really not that much, you know. And even after the unemployment benefits are cut, and remember, these are households within the states where the federal benefits came to an end. Okay, they're not households in states where where the deadline were cut off, or maybe they didn't even have the federal unemployment benefits. But in any case, these households are within the same state. Okay, and you follow this chart and this trend of consumer behavior, right? And there is a gap, but not that much. Really, not that much. Okay. Um, in terms of the ability of consumers to continue spending and stay afloat, do not appear to be impacted in a very significant way so far with unemployment benefits. Now, I need to continue to stress that this is preliminary. I think it's going to be um, next year or a couple of years before we know the final answer about exactly how unemployment benefits impacted labor force participation, and to tease out all the complexity nuances out of that. But like I was saying, for the initial data, right now, um, it's looking like, even without the unemployment benefits, households were able to continue to spend. And so ultimately, I have to say I'm a little bit skeptical about the households, 13% of households that said it's because of unemployment benefits. You know, I think the reality is, human motivation and what's happening right now is much more complex. So let's go back to, you know, um, this scene right here. So I think there were probably uh, a complexity of reasons about why. I'm sure that the unemployment benefits probably were a factor, but there was also pandemic concerns, and of course, childcare is a hard stop for a lot of parents, right? So, despite this survey, I think we don't really have any real clarity. You know, it's saying 13% of people just stayed away because they turned down job offers because of unemployment money, but I mean, they just kept spending. They continue to spend and spend, and the American consumer can be definitely um, counted on to max out their credit cards. Um, I mean, what the savings rate has been historically. So I would discount this survey for now, right? Again, we are waiting on more data and seeking more clarity. But for now, I think the jury's still out. And in fact, the initial data and some of the statistical studies that were done during the pandemic, during unemployment, and when we started to open up, are actually suggesting the opposite, that unemployment benefits did not have a statistically significant impact on the loss of motivation or any barrier to people reentering the workforce. So there you have it. Again, preliminary results, but that's what the data is saying. So I hope you found this helpful. I stream Wednesday night and Sunday afternoons, Pacific Standard Time. Lately, there's been a lot of economic news, so I felt the need to stream more often, and I'm likely to continue that. But yeah, so again, I hope you got some clarity in terms of the survey and in terms of the initial data. So uh, I'll see you at the next video.